Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for World Trigger Chapter 151. Okay, now, a big chunk of this chapter is OG Squad coming up with a plan to deal with Tamakoma 2, and Osamu pretty much countering everything that they think up. Pretty much, okay? Oh, and also Ecoma Squad, they just don't have a care in the world. It's actually pretty entertaining. It's actually really entertaining. I love how carefree they are. Everyone's talking about strategy, coming up with these plans to deal with all these people, and Ecoma's just talking about his favorite curry. You know, it's just so fun. I love these guys. I love how they can be so carefree. Like, it's just a given that they're going to win, which, I mean, they're really freaking good, obviously, so they can afford to be like that, probably. But even so, it's just fun to see someone who's just not taking things too seriously and just likes having a good time. So I'm really liking Coma and the squad for just going along with with him with all this stuff that he does. So that's actually pretty fun. All right. Now, OG, he's saying that the plan that he's come up with, they're saying they should just target Osamu right out of the gate, because the longer he's out there, the more wires he can put down. The more wires he puts down, the more trouble he's going to be for them. Right? So he needs to be taken out right away. And Osamu predicts this pretty easily. It's like the first thing he says. And he decides that he should start the match off with Bagworm activated. That way it's harder for them to find him, and he can just hide out as long as possible and lay out all the wires and everything. Now, OG Squad does actually consider this, and their solution to this is to follow Yuma, because they figure he's probably not going to have Bagworm activated, because it's inconvenient for him to. It makes it more difficult to fight with his style. It just makes it more difficult to fight with Bagworm. So they they don't assume he's not going to have it. They do consider the possibility, but they just say the chances are he's not going to have this, or at the very least use it. So we'll be able to follow him, and he'll lead us straight to Osamu. And then, of course, Osamu considers this as well. The entire squad does, really. Yuma actually asked if he should back Osamu up if they come after him, and he's told no, because they could just follow you. So Yuma decides instead that he is going to lead them into a trap, pretty much, and he's going to lead them right to Chica's range, where she can go take them out, because she'll have Bagworm activated from the beginning. And of course she has to deactivate it to actually use the lead bullets, but at that point it'll probably be too late. She'll at least get a couple shots off before they're able to get out of the way. So I don't think it's going to go that smoothly. It's just not going to. It's not going to go that smoothly. Something's going to happen. But anyway, OG, he thinks about the possibility that they won't actually be able to get to Osamu. And he says that if that happens, they'll use Ecoma Squad to just surround Tamakoma and then just take him out that way. So, yeah, that's and then they don't come up with a plan for Ecoma Squad because they fought each other so many times, they just don't need it. They know each other so well at this point. So there's just no need to come up with a plan, because they already know what they're going to do from the past. They're just going to do what they always do, I guess. Now, the rest of the chapter, there's a couple pages showing Hughes, but they're not really important. The rest of this chapter is about Netsuki and Kinuta and Katsumi, okay? And they are discussing the negotiations between Kido and Osamu regarding Hughes. Kinuta and Netsuki, they don't understand why Kido even bothered letting Hughes join Mikuma's squad. All they had to do was take him prisoner and force him to be their guide, and they could have done that. But Karasawa says, you know, that entire situation, it wasn't about Hughes. It was about getting Chika to join the away squad, and not the away squad, but joining the mission. That's what the main goal was. And it's just that the way Osamu formed his argument, he made it seem like it would be helpful for Hughes to be there. So Kido just decided to go with it. That way they could both get what they want, because what he could have done is just, I mean, he's the head of border pretty much. So all he had to do was force Hughes on the mission as a prisoner, then force Chico on the mission as well. It's not like Tamakoma could do anything about it. He's the top dog at the end of the day. Right? So it's not like they could actually say no, right? So he could have just done that, but that's just going to tick off Tamakoma, and there's just no reason to create unnecessary conflict between the different branches. There's just no reason for that. If you can both get what you want, then what's the point? I could be one thing if Tamakoma was asking for something that actually hurt Border, but like Karasawa said, the way the argument was framed, it actually was helpful to have Hughes come along. It was helpful for Osama to get what he wanted. So there's no, you might as well, right? Why not? So, but then Netsuki brings up that the real issue that he's worried about is what they're going to do after they arrive at the crater. Because what Osamu said was Hughes can't betray us on the way there because he needs us to actually get there. But what both he and Kido intentionally left out is what they're going to do once they get there. Because once they get there, Hughes no longer has any motivation to actually be loyal to them. He can just betray them if he wants to, right? And at that point, he's unpredictable. You don't know what he'll do. He might end up hurting you in the end, fighting against you. In case his king or his master ends up becoming a target, you don't know what he's going to do. And Kido and Osama would obviously have different opinions as to what should be done with Hughes to prevent this from happening. So they both intentionally did not talk about it because they knew that would just end negotiations. They would never agree, and that would just end negotiations right there. And there's just no, if you can both get what you want, then why intentionally introduce something that'll ruin why? It just didn't make sense. So neither of them brought it up. But Karasawa says what would likely happen is they would just drug him or lock him up or dispose of him before they reached after Crater. That way he wouldn't have the chance to actually betray them. Of course, after they've confirmed that in the course and everything, they no longer need the guide, After his usefulness, after he lives out his usefulness, then they would just dispose of him. But assuming that Tamakoma 2, they're going to make it on the squad. I mean, this away mission is, I'm assuming, going to be a long arc, like a saga, like 2 or 3 arcs. That's what I'm assuming this is going to be as far as the length goes. And there's no way we're going that long period of time in this manga without Tamakoma 2 being there. Yuma, Osama, there's just no way. There's just no way. Okay? It would be... I could understand that. Some manga have done it before. Naruto would have a long periods of time where Naruto just didn't show up. One Piece had the War of the Best, where the entire crew didn't show up with the exception of Luffy. But he's Luffy, so you can get away with that. But you can't do that with just Chika and then have Yuma and Osamu not show up at all. Maybe you can get away with Osamu not showing up as long as Yuma is there. But you can't get away with Yuma not showing up. And if Yuma and Chika are going to be there, then you might as well have Osamu too. You might as well just have them all go, right? So I don't even remember what my point was when I first started talking about that. I don't even remember what my point was in bringing all that up. Well, I think what I was going to try and say was that I honestly don't even remember what my point was going to be. I think it had something to do with if Tamakoma 2, if they're all there, then they might end up affecting the way Hughes ends up getting treated. I think that's where I was going with it, but I honestly don't remember because I ended up going off on the tangent about the unlikelihood of Yuma and Osamu not going on this mission. But anyway, I'm sure that was probably my point. It's not that big of a deal. If I forgot it, it must not have been that big of a deal. I certainly didn't think of it ahead of time. That was a spur-of-the-moment thing. So it was probably that. Just the likelihood of them having an impact on how Hughes is dealt with. Okay, but that's pretty much the end of the chapter right there. The match is going to start next week, assuming we don't switch to Gallipomo or something like that, I'm still bringing them up. They're going to show up at some point. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of when. But Yeah, match is going to start next week. Um, the main purpose of this chapter was to raise those question marks ahead of time so that you're thinking for months and months and months what exactly is going to be Hughes' fate. You know, the more chapters that are going to go by in these next couple months, the more you're going to begin to like Hughes, and you're going to be invested in him as a character, and you're not going to want him to be disposed of, you know. So the point of this chapter was to raise those question marks as to what his fate's going to be, and it accomplished that. It accomplished that. So I'll give this chapter a 6.5 out of 10 because most of it was just, you know, Ecoma squad being carefree, which was fun. Um, and some strategy just being countered back and forth. And then those question marks at the end. So I'll give the chapter a 6.5 out of 10. It was an alright chapter, and it accomplished what it set out to do. So yeah, that's that, you guys. Chapter gets a 6.5 out of 10. Rate, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at BlacklistOTA. And I will see you guys next time.